Let's do it. Alrighty, here we go. My name is Marty Fox from WHITEFOX. Now, here's the deal.
Well, this is another episode of With the Fox. And firstly, man to my left, Marty Fox. Nice to be back with you. I haven't been with you in this studio for a long time. You've been off overseas. You had Daniel Daggers, you had Ralph James, and of course, hopefully a few others as well. Been busy.
I know, it's been full on. So, I've missed you. I've been talking with the Fox by myself.
I know, with myself. Now, today we're joined by a man who is synonymous with a lot of things. Some would say the nightclub king of Australia, but certainly businessman, entrepreneur, raconteur, just an all-round good fella. Nick Russian.
Busy dad.
Big corporate owner, like busy dad. A lot of titles, mate, but great to have you in here because you've got a rich history across a number of, I guess, I won't say disciplines, but things that you've done that I think are worth tapping into. Particularly for those of you who lived in Melbourne would know this man definitely, and certainly would have been to one of his venues. You've come to Melbourne in the last 25 years, staggered out of them. You've seen this man standing at the door with a big smile on his face, greeting everyone who walked through. We're going to get to the nightclubs in a second because, of course, that's where you spend a lot of your time. But for you personally, you're a Melbourne man. I feel like Melbourne is your home.
Well, Melbourne born and bred. Thank you for having me. I should start by saying thank you for having, and what an introduction that was. I'm feeling right now.
I would love to introduce you as a former mayor of Melbourne. We didn't quite get
We didn't get there.
You know what? You had my vote. And I remember that's where we started talking. I was so excited to see you be the Lord Mayor because you're talking about people coming to Melbourne and having a good time. And we are renowned for our hospitality, our nightlife, and that's you.
Yeah. Look, I appreciate the nice words. It's look, we gave it a crack. It was something that came about very, very last minute. I was approached 4 weeks or 5 weeks out from the election date. So I sort of went in there as a I think it was 100 to 1 on the sport. By the end of it, we took quite a bit of the publicity and the media and all the rest of it, and ended up favourite by the end of it. Yeah, didn't know how I didn't win, but we actually came pretty close, which was nice surprise to myself, and it would have been good to have that good lead time, but it was right.
So that gives you a taste and to give you like that sense of, this is something that I'll do again, revisit at probably a better time in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think at the time it made sense because the world was in lockdown and I had hospitality business that just couldn't operate, So when I was approached, I felt, well, if you ever want to have any say, you need to try and get yourself a seat in a prominent position to try and have some form of input into what you were trying to achieve. And we did well. I was really happy with the result. We took 10% of the primary vote, which was really huge. And I think we needed 1,000 more votes and looked one on majority or what's called the
Handicap.
Yes.
I told you I had no sleep.
I'll forget that.
I'm preference. Here we go, there. So,
but you learn the process. This is the whole thing. Is like most people would have zero understanding how a Lord Mayor, because not every city has a Lord Mayor or has a voting system like Melbourne does. So you would have learned that. But then also just in terms of elections and what goes on behind the scene. Tell us. Well, we've sort of started a bit into your story. But yes, continue because we're already talking about it. So the Lord Mayor was Sally Cap at the time.
Yep.
So she then has to run a campaign for herself, and then anyone can go up against her. How's it work?
Well,
Were you just chipping your phone to
I was approached by a current councillor at the time, right? Okay. And
At Bar Bambi or?
we won't open bars.
That's where all the good ideas come from.
That is when we rise. No. At that stage, we weren't quite open. And he called me. He said, "Look, I'm currently a councillor, and I've got a ticket to run." He said, went through the process. He said, "I think you'd be a great candidate for it. People with hospitality need someone to talk on their behalf. You also have a lot of experience in business and everything, so I think you'd be a great candidate." We spoke through a process and gave it a cracking.
Because hostile at the time was a hot ticket. I know Bruce Kedra, he was quite prominent on social media, talking about the impact, because I think that the everyday public didn't realise how hard it was for hospo. In general, being shut down, closed listing from around Australia, didn't know Melbourne was so hard hit by it, and hospo in particular, because you could have no resort.
And also, were you in the process of still renovating Bar Bambi?
So we're in a really tricky spot because we took possession of a site. It was the old Cherry Bar site on ACDC Lane.
Iconic site.
Yeah, very iconic site. We purchased we bought the keys. So we purchased the leasehold. We've been not handled it, unfortunately, but anyway, we purchased the lease and, spent a significant amount of money on bringing it back to a cold shell. You know that property more than anybody into those old buildings, 150-year-old buildings. It just absolutely decrepit. So we spent millions of dollars bringing it back to a shell, okay? And then finally, when it was time to start the actual shop the fit out, the fun stage where everyone, sees all the bottom results of it.
Lockdown.
And we got locked down. So we're in a position where, because we weren't an operating business in regards to all of the job keepers and all the rest of it. So we didn't have any of these, any of the JobKeeper or any of the government subsidies to keep things going. So we're just buried millions of dollars into this joint.
But then what about the people, like the financing behind it? So you're halfway through the rent-up.
Yeah.
Then COVID hits. How was the money still then coming in to finish the job?
Well, that's it. Well, we were self-financed. We were self-financed. We didn't, so with our projects, we don't really wipe them leverage because we have holes under it. Well, that's it. And it was a tough time. It was a really, really tough time. And then, Cody here, we closed. We sat there, what are we going to do? Do we, cut our losses? Do we walk away?
Or so, yeah.
But then we're still on the hook on this lease for how many years as well.
So there was the decision of do we pull out of Bar Bambi?
Absolutely. But we're too far down the line. Shit, what are you going to do? Because what we had to do is we were continuing to invest in stop, start building.
Yeah.
Like, are we breathing it up?
And you probably also had the itch because how long had it been? We'll obviously get to it.
Yeah.
Since you had gotten out of Eve. How long was that?
By the time we ended up opening the doors, and it was like 6 years. 6 years in between, 6 to 7 years.
So then, does it peel off a bit of? Is there an identity crisis for you in that period, or was it much needed rest?
No, it was much needed rest. So we had Eve for 10 years, which is a long time. I say nightclub years like dog years. You're an old clubber, mate. Number one employee.
Once upon a time, you've spent enough time in it as well.
There's time on the dance floor.
So both you blokes know what it's about, but
week in, week out, and pants the hours, that's it. You're rolling out, I was rolling out there at 5:36 in the morning for 10 years straight. And I'd only ever,
How many nights a week would that spend?
look, initially it was, I was doing the 4 nights and then carved that back to 3, then carved it back to 2, then eventually just carved it back to 1 night a week. So it was sustainable. I had my team, it was fine. Okay, one Saturday night I'd do it. But it just sucks it out. But anyway, guys, we were going into a different, we refer to myself and my brother, going into a different phase of our life. And, we had kids and all the rest of it. So, we had enough. We needed a rest. It was done. You were polishing an old turd, if you can say that. I'm not sure if you'll say it. By the end of it, after 10 years, there was only so much more we could do. We had a fantastic offer from someone to purchase the business from us. The landlord was a friend of ours. We're stoked about landlord, beautiful person, beautiful family, and they wanted to eventually develop the site. So they had first right to approve the purchaser, and they ended up being the purchaser of the business. They knocked it over, and
So that's right. So you sell the business, you sell Eve, but then it gets demolished.
Yeah. So how does that work? Well, we have a long lease. We had a 20-year lease.
Oh, so you actually could have. So you obviously asked for top dollar.
Well, you know,
because of Elvis. No, and even more so, because there's so much profit in the development,
Yeah.
you would have got, look, you would have owed us what market value.
without going into all the finer details of it, we were happy. We were happy with the offer that we'd received from the original buyer. And I'll be honest with you, we didn't overinflate it when we went to the landlord. He said, "Look, what's it look like?" And I said, "This is what it looks like. Are you happy with it? Are we happy with it?" He was happy. We were happy. It was perfect. It was a perfect scenario. And he's still one of my dearest friends to this day.
You are really like about it though. You know when you start a business and you build that legacy, because Eve just had something special about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not just because, I mean, the location honestly wasn't the best. It was the worst location.
The worst location.
You made it work. It was in a basement. It's just the whole thing should have worked on
It should never have worked.
and you made it work. But what I love is that had that then been sold to somebody else to run,
Yeah.
they actually would have run it into the ground.
100%.
And it would have tarnished the reputation of Eve. It's actually great that you were able to sell it and then it gets knocked over.
See you later.
And it's like, it's a beautiful little memory. You lock it in the vault,
Spot on.
and everyone just can have those memories for the rest of their lives.
Spot on. The brand's foot to bed.
Yeah.
Brand's foot to
But
bed.
it's like the TV shows that like they smartly stop after 2 or 3 seasons. The Yados is running into the 8th season. We're like, oh, I hate that show. Leave it 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Leave the memory strong. I do want to talk about nightclubs specifically down the track, but we're going to, like, we've sort of gone our end. Yeah.
I like how we're going.
So for those who don't know, Nick Rush, like I've given you the introduction, but you know, very talented football player, was on the supplementary AFL list, so was almost at the highest level, could play some really good footy. And then three people at this table have all had experience in reality television.
Oh, yes.
Now, those who don't know, the reason why this is interesting for me is because you were on reality television really when reality television was just starting. It was its infancy. We didn't know a lot about it.
I didn't even know this.
So, Nick, you take it away. You were on a show called Temptation Island.
The pioneer of bad reality TV.
I know.
I was the pioneer.
So you can YouTube this.
So how is the original love off?
What's yes?
Out of the false before, all I do was a show called Temptation. I think they still had one. I'd see.
Funnily enough, I auditioned to host Temptational again in 2000 and just before COVID, 2019. They were going to bring it back. That's right. They had cast at Fiji. I went out to Sydney. I auditioned to be the host, and they pulled the whole thing off the table.
Did they call it because of COVID?
No, because they just.
Because he was the host.
But David
Shura.
True, because the guy from Channel 10 came to Channel 7, David Barr, I think it was, or whatever his name was, went to 7. No, Warburton, Jazz Warburton. And he thought it was trash, and he pulled it off. Even though they already had people with the Fiji, and they were ready to go. That's another story. Point is, tell us about, because this would be, what, 99, 98, or 2000? I don't know, when was it? How did you get on that show? How did the audition process work? Because it was, this is when TV was TV, different.
Well,
now.
you had back then there was 4 channels. Yeah. And if you really much, yeah, if you included an ABC, do you include that? Really? So when you're all right, what are you doing? You're either outside playing sport, which most of us did, in the backyard or whatever. Then only that Tyres Road. Yeah, correct, right? Or you'd watch the 3 channels. So it had massive viewage.
Yes, there, yes.
And the whole process back then was we went to
You've done modelling. You've done a bit of modelling. Is that
back then I had a few more feathers on my head back there. Almost as good as yours. Almost as good as yours. And we got approached. No, we did get approached. I'm just trying to remember. It was up long ago now. Shit, I was 20.
It's going to be 25 years ago, didn't it?
I was 21 or 22, dude. Yeah, it's about 23 years ago. And I heard there was an audition at Heat Knifer. Yeah, remember the old Heat Knifer? Heat Knifer in Beaumac Brown. Yeah. And me and my girlfriend at the time, remember we rocked up and...
So you go to an audition for Temptation Island with your missus.
Yes. It was the 2 of us. We were on the show together, right? So we've rocked up and there's a massive queue going down the stairs. He goes, downstairs. I'm going, bloody hell, we're just walking on anyway. Someone's grabbed us and said, oh, you two come straight to the front. So I said, I'm a chance here. Yes. Just as well. There's no over the world Aussie lining up for however long it was. So anyway, cut through, did the audition. Then the next process was going to phone call him next week and said, all right, you're down to the last 10 or 20 and some cool, and they flew us up to
So you always stage what the premise of the show was. That you were on an island and someone was going to try and teach you how to chair roosters.
Yes, really. That's a why. So it was, and again,
Did you get tempted?
No, not terrible. no, we're good boy anyway. But that's it. The whole concept of the show is it's 4 couples go to an exotic location. They divide the 2 couples, the 4 couples, 4 boys, 4 girls, 2 different islands, and then they send
Beautiful women.
15 male strippers and 15 female strippers, right? That's attempt. So when you think about it, yeah, it is. It's trashy shows. I can understand why in today's day and age that's in that is.
But maths still goes well. Do you know what I mean? That's so.
It does, but maths isn't. We talk about ethically and all this. You go, okay, well,
Yeah, that's the same, right?
yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
So that is people.
So that was,
So can I ask you, because you would know on the block, and I said it too, is like, how produced was it? Because, nowadays with maths and stuff, it's gone from the original maths. The first season, if you watch it, they just sit there. You didn't act. The couples didn't meet. Yeah. Now they sit at a table, have dinner, and talk about all the drama. For you, were there producers that go, hey, can you go and have a little conversation with that girl over there?
And that's what they do. So they have their framework of the shows, and sure, Block does, and all the different shows have done it. You have your framework, and it's like, okay, we're going to put them into this scenario. We're going to send them away on the dream dates, and there's a few questions that they're then going to ask us. They being the producers, I'll ask certain questions after the date, and then I'll put you into another scenario and into another scenario, and it's up to yourself how you wanted to react to each of the scenarios.
So this is where I find the block so unique in the fact that a lot of people go, were you told to say this or were you told to say that?
Yep.
So I'm walking into rooms with 0 prep and 0 guidance. Absolutely. So I remember the first day going on set, I was put into this. I mean, if you think about it, you've got judges that have been doing it for 15 plus years.
Yep.
You've got a crew that have been together for like 20 years. Like, you're the way work in the new plot. Yeah. It's like going to a new school. It's pretty intimidating. Yeah. And I remember pulling one of the producers on set aside, and the 2 founders, one is executive producer on set.
Okay.
And one is behind the scenes up in Sydney, ELT. So that they cover both sides.
Yep.
Still advice. And I remember pulling the executive producer on set aside, just said, and his pointers in there, what should I do? She just said, be yourself, just go in there, just talk what you think. Great. And I thought to myself, far out, because there's so much drama on the block.
Yeah.
But the key for the block is the fact that they actually give 0 direction, but they just capture absolutely everything. Like, there is no escape.
Yeah.
And when you've got people that are sleep deprived, hungry, couples, renovating, it's a great show. It's a disaster.
But also, the audience have no idea that you as judges are told none of that. So they know it's not like the songs how to fight or
Sounds okay. It's you know now. I was saying, but we went to this bathroom last week and it was empty.
Yep.
We didn't know that it was empty. So you've got people commenting and going, oh, great acting. To be fair, they can't actually tell us anything because then it takes away from the reaction.
It's actually great. It's smart. It's smart. You're getting your grill.
Yeah, they film, because, we filmed this months ago. After filming 4 months ago.
Yep.
And we only filmed for 12 weeks. The whole thing wrapped up in 12 weeks. So the people go, so like, how does it all work? The key and the magic with the block is they are casting for 9 months.
Yeah, Gary.
So they filmed for 3 months, cast for 9.
Wow.
So the combination is it's all on the people. On reality TV, if you don't have the characters,
well, you would have found that.
You'll find that. Well, mate, that's it, isn't it? If you got a bunch of stiffs on there, then that's it.
So I took a couple little quick pointers about Temptation Island. Firstly, I don't know why. I didn't know it at the time, by the way. This will always stick in my mind. Cassie, I love you. I trust you. But what are you doing in bed with Jay?
It's word for word. Word for word. That was famous, wasn't it?
You were showing something on a tiny TV or was it a laptop? Not even existing.
Yeah, well,
And you've got to do this, and this is the time, Cassie, and she's there with the guy or Jay, and you're like, Cassie, I love you.
Oh, mate, I guess you said that. What was the Meg you like at the time? Like,
Yeah, how'd you come out of the show with? What was the...
My girlfriend and I at the time were the only two who stayed together. So for us, or for me, and we're growing up after, obviously, but that was beneficial. And I guess the other thing was, with these shows, how some people go onto these shows trying to act and behave a certain way. I didn't. I just run there, lie down, come into not know what you're going to talk about. Just
you put it away.
okay, place of work. And I didn't come across as a dickhead. No, I didn't think of it. Mum didn't think of it. Anyway. But a lot of people did.
Yes.
And
Think that you were.
they had enough to other people on the show may not have come across as squeaky clean or as...
So the show just amplified your good points, you feel?
Well, yeah. So, and what it did as well, and this is the whole, when I think back about it, I was always keen to do it because I thought, if you've got a moment to be on TV or whatever, who knows what sort of doors it's going to open.
And this is pre-influencerism. Like, you did it now, it's a different story. You might get 100,000, 200,000 hours. Back then, it was pre all that.
Correct. And at the time,
So how quickly did you leverage the fact that you had this moment? How quickly did you leverage that into a business opportunity?
So yes, it's a really good question. I was just about to touch on it, which is at the time I was lucky enough, I was doing quite a bit of modelling work, okay? But I was also running nightclubs and promoting nightclubs and everything.
For the owners of clubs.
Of clubs, correct. And off the back of doing the show, my profile went up to another level. And I thought, this is an opportunity to leverage on. And that year I opened my first club bar.
And which one was that?
It was called Acrobat. I had the number one promoter. I had the two number one promoters in my side. Here we go. Ready? Sugar Saps and Tim Gurner.
You're kidding me.
The two, I was named Shuri and Timmy Gurner. Two best of the best, right?
So where was that?
Thursday night across the road from where I went to school, actually, Wesley on St Kilda Road. Right, so I was 22 or 23.
I was 18.
18.
I get a phone call from a guy called Tim Gurner.
Yeah.
He will probably know Smashed Avocado and one of the $1 billion brand developer as well. Friend of those. So he called, and I've known Tim since we were 12. We played footy together. He calls, I'll never forget, I'm in Darwin on my grandma's house. Tim Gurner calls me. Property development, not at this point. Hey, mate, how you done? Hey, I've got an opportunity for us. Yeah, you keen? I was like, what is it? He goes, mate, all we have to do is go to nightclubs, bring our friends, we get paid for it, get free drinks. And I was like, I'm in. Next thing I know, I'm going to this bar across the road. He said the bottom of a high-rise building.
Like an office building.
Office building. And it's not anything to do with it. And here's the
Really shit spice. Really shit spice.
That's a story that comes off the back, as I'll tell you in a second. But and sitting inside this guy, meeting this beautiful man, Dick Russell, it's all been kept out. Next thing you know, Tim and I and two promoters alongside a few others and
Running Thursday nights.
And the funniest thing was, so applicators,
Thursdays.
So next door to this bar was the windows that saw into the foyer of the next building, which had a fountain in it. Tell what you did with it.
So we put some dancing girls in there in the fountain. So I don't know if we were allowed to at the time. But you weren't allowed to. Then 22, 23, we put some dancing girls.
And people loved it.
And people loved it. Everyone's sitting there watching. It's like seeing that screen behind it. Everyone's just sitting there watching these girls dancing in the...
What are they wearing?
Not much.
No, but you were allowed to back then. If you need that beat in this day and age, you would be absolutely...
We might have gone on a few
And
capacities.
there was some guys dancing in there as well, and maybe some guys took all their clothes off in there. And
How was the Acrobat Oval?
it was short-lived. It was short-lived. The one thing we knew how to do was we knew how to
Get people in
the doors.
And why didn't, but why was that?
Okay. My brother and I, we built up a network of different people over years. So from playing sports, from modelling, from working, from just different areas. And
So you have a friendship group. You had all these different kinds of people.
and also had my friendship group as well. But the thing is, with my brother and I, we've always been lucky that we've got along with people. We're lucky. We get along with people. We don't have call-outs with people, and it hasn't been a deliberate action. So, hey, I'm trying to network. Yeah, it was, hey, I'll go along. Same as you. Oh, look, just always do alliance.
But can you tell us, because
I went along, and and then all of a sudden you bump into a person 5 years later, you haven't seen, nothing changes. You sit there, you have a beer, you have a laugh.
People love it when the owner says, come down, come have a drink. Yeah, come over. It's like comfortable. Feel comfy. So it's like walking up. I know whenever I've come into one of your venues and you come and say that, it's like walking into someone's lounge room, and having that home away from home. Even if you only go, for me, 3 little kids, I might get to Bar Bambi 3 or 4 times a year. Yeah. But I feel good.
You feel,
It's really unique how you do that.
But I actually appreciate it. I love it when I see you, when I see any of my friends come in. I appreciate it. So you guys say, oh, geez, thanks so much. I actually love it as well. So, how good. I've got a couple of mates here to have a drink with, So,
I can't really airshine, but everyone wins. I think it's a key thing in business. All stakeholders, including your customers, your shareholders, your partners, you'll never feel like you're winning.
Absolutely. So let's go into this, because this is a question I wanted to ask. Yeah, I think there is an art form in running a nightclub, right? In terms of who to invite, how to get them in, how to set up the room, how to make them feel, how to do the drinks, all that stuff. Now, Aquabar is your first venture.
Yeah.
I would imagine a few lessons learned.
A lot.
What would they?
Yeah, what they are. Particularly about things like
Just law.
Here's always thought. And seriously serious. Things like having strategically making people wait at the front. Make it feel, because this is, again, you're doing Aquabar in 2001, right?
Yeah.
It's before Instagram. It's before this mobile phones. Ubiquitous, right? You can't tell the right
How do you call people? You'd be calling, you'd go to your old black book. What was the old black book? And you'd sit there and you'd go from A and you go, oh yeah, you haven't spoken in for a while. And they come over, let's get all the boys who used to play footy. Yeah, cool, done. Then you call someone at your work. Yeah, how about we do someone from uni, someone from, so you just have different pockets of people. We just create high, and they were all, the one thing was, they were all similar pockets of people. We're similar people, right? We like the same sort of stuff. So I think back about it, and there's always been social influences, except today there's a platform to share it, okay? So whether it's the guy at the footy club who's the captain of the footy club, he's the social influencer amongst his group. If you can tap into him, he's the one who
What I want to know is, whether you did at Aqua that worked, and then went into the next ones.
Yeah.
What's still something that you did at Aqua where if you were to do another venture, the Bar Bambi, you would do again? Like, what's something that's stuck with you? Yeah, that's been a pillar. Yeah, that won't change.
I think people like to be around people similar to themselves, or they like to know a few familiar faces in the venue. And how do you achieve that? It's a really good question.
Does it start, is that from being an outsider or I see real estate and nightclub, I see similarity. The fact that like you called Shoot and called Tim.
Yeah.
I look at the people that I got on board early days. They had good networks. Yeah, they became good listers.
Yeah.
Because people trusted them. They knew that they were young agents, but they knew that they were in safe hands.
Yeah.
So is the promoter the one, that's your grassroots, because they're the ones out on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and same bleeding up to that next Thursday.
Yeah.
For WHITEFOX, it starts with our agents.
Yeah.
Does the nightclub start with its promoters?
100%. It starts with the product. What is the product and what is its unique differences to other venues? Okay, that's step one.
Okay, so
Then once you've got that product,
So to give that with context, what was ease? Because if you were a celebrity, if you were in town, if you just won the grand final, if you just won the Australian Open, you were at ease.
Yeah.
How did you go from, because it's like in business, how do you go from being just a restaurant to the restaurant? How do you go from being the agency to the agency?
Yeah.
You have the venue.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of them out there.
I'll start off, I'll talk about Bambi first, and then I'll go back to Eve in terms of point of difference, because Bambi's probably an easy one to point out the difference. I found towards the end of Eve that the consumer behaviour was changing. It was no longer about, obviously we were all getting older, so we weren't wanting to go to the nightclub, okay? But I was just seeing what the general consumer was doing, or our consumer was doing. They were going to a bar, or they were going somewhere for dinner, but they sort of wanted a little bit more than that. They wanted that element of entertainment, because I feel as though our generation sort of grown up with good food and also good entertainment. And I did a bit of research overseas, and I saw this whole clubstaurant movement going, where it was...
Say that again.
Clubstaurant.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
Club restaurant.
Yeah. So it wasn't a nightclub, it wasn't a restaurant. It sat right in between. And it's something that wasn't here.
Well, so it's very European.
It's very European. It's very, very European.
And the good thing is that you can find that sweet spot. That sweet spot in a nightclub is between 1 and 3 a.m. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
The sweet spot in your venue, you might find, is 11:30 till 1:30.
Yes.
Which is great for...
Yes, you're getting the earlier dollar.
Less inebriated patron.
Well, that's it. So, and also...
Because there sometimes it's at the last place.
Well, that's it. So we're all older now, right? And I always looked at it in terms of where would I go out? That is how I looked at it. Where would I go out? And if I go there, surely there's someone else in our pocket who would go. And there was that gap in the market of that middle area set between club and restaurant, because none of us were any interest in going to a straight market. None at all. And I thought, how can we capture the early market through food, but then the late market through entertainment? How do you basically trick them? You're tricking that older market into a nightclub. So, hey, I've gone there for my celebration birthday. So we had a lot of people who work self. They might come 3 times a year, 4 times a year, but it's, okay, do you know what it is? My birthday, I actually want to have a night out where I've gone there for dinner.
If I could ask, alcoholism, prosciutto, I'm having a ball.
Yeah, and now the music's gone that little bit louder and the lights gone a little bit darker, and the table's then to be...
What's happening? I'm dancing on the table. What have I done here?
So it happens. So everything's programmed. Everything's programmed a certain hour by up, lights down, DJ change, all these different things to capture people's attention as well. So back to your original question of, you need the product, step one. What is the product and what is its uniqueness? That's a big part of it. The other uniqueness is the promoter and the people who are there. And a lot of that comes from my brother and myself, who have our network over the years. So again, that's another part. And in regards to promoters, say with Bambi, we started with no promoters at all. Okay, so for the first couple of years, we had no promoters. But now as you start getting into year 2, year 3, 4, you start trying to create a bit more of a life for yourself where you don't have to be there every single minute of the day. So start bringing in some key promoters.
And our find of those people are people that you see as your regular customers, and you tap them on the shoulder and you go, hey, you're here so often spending money doing what you're doing.
Yeah, why don't you, like my man Butch, he's always there.
Butchie, Rich Joy, great man, Butchie.
Yeah, plus, over your socials, I'm like, okay, I've seen him posting for 2 years.
Yeah.
Got me there.
Yeah.
Now I see him standing there just working there. I don't know. This is a really interesting business model, because you're not advertising for a job. You're not having to chase for people.
Yeah.
They're already there. So it's an easy sell. Yeah, hey, mate, you're already here. Why don't you turn this into
a little business? So then they're generating, like if you have the different people who sell for you.
Yep.
They're out there selling for us. So, that person who works for you needs to have certain attributes that fit within your brand. That's the same with the people who work as a promoter, as a host with us. They have to have certain attributes that work for us, and then they need to
It's so good to watch. Yeah. In terms of being a market leader and innovator within the space and implementing things like how you are with Bar Bambi, do you also see the copycats and people are trying to emulate
100%
and out in 100%? And what's crazy is that they can take ideas. It's so hard to execute.
it is very, very difficult to execute, and it's a very, very tricky model. And with whatever it is that you do, like we all do, you do like to think that you are a leader in your field, and you're continually coming up with new concepts and ideas and driving it. It always gets copied. It always gets copied. It's like a fashion designer comes out with this whole new look and all the rest of it. The next year, someone else has copied it. The year after, someone else has copied it. And it continues to go out to the further and further mainstream market.
So then do you hold on to your pillars even tighter, or do you keep evolving?
Keep evolving. Always keep evolving. Like, you have certain pillars that you need to, stick to, but you need to evolve. If you don't evolve, it dies.
So going from Eve, I love that, if you don't evolve, you die, because we had trip. You go from Eve, which is Kepi nightclub, to Bar Bambi, which is the blend of club restaurant.
Yep.
But yet you're still pulling in those exact same celebrities, the same clientele. They're different products.
Yep.
Pulling the same clientele.
Yep.
How have you done that?
I think because, back to our, an earlier point, was where we've made friends over the years and continue to be friends, and feel alignment out of, same as us, all those blokes will have a chat and have a laugh, and people walk out there having a great time. And also, I think with different celebrities as well, they want to feel they can trust you as well, but they're not being exploited as well. And that's one thing we don't do is don't
Put photos up and do,
Yes, I think we do put a photo up. If we do put a photo up, it's, mate,
you might.
Jim, especially John or Struggle will come up, hey, you boys, right? And a lot of times, that's someone else. It's just, no, doing the spot.
And Dane Ramsey, he came in not long ago.
Yeah.
And he was,
Mate, what a great bloke he was. What an absolute.
So had that happen, if someone say, hey, Nick, we've got Gordon Ramsay wants to come to Bar Bambi, or how something like
I got a message from a bloke overseas, actually, Tyson O'Brien.
yeah, about Jared?
He's great. Actually, yes, he said, I've got Gordon Ramsay's in town, his manager. Then where do I go? Yeah, my better guy. So I've told him, come to you guys. I said, yeah, no, guys. So he said, number, blah, blah, blah.
I wasn't sure if it was Ed, really. Okay. Because sometimes you get messages from people out of the blue, you haven't spoken to for a while, and mate, someone might come. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Anyway, next minute I've got a message from Ramsay's manager. He said, oh, we're 2 minutes. I've gone, shit. We've got no tables. We've got no tables available. What am I going to do? Anyways, a mate of mine who was having dinner, I said, mate, I'm sorry to do this now. I said, Gordon Ramsay's. He goes, mate, no dramas. So he got up and he came in and had a drink at the bar with me and my mates. And then I was eating food. Yeah, full meal. Had a nibble, had a drink, lumped it all, had a ripping night, had a great time, and then ended up coming back, I think 2 weeks later. So it was like a goodbye party with him and George Golombaris and Shane Bennett, all the rest. Ended up having a big night there. Hey, and that all just.
Who were some of your favourites? You've had some of the biggest names who've come to Australia in your doors, whether it's Eve or...
Yep.
Just give us a couple of little tidbits of your favourite celebs. You want to stand out?
We've had good all actors. It's what? They've all been good people. Yeah. They've all been good people. We've been lucky enough to have some big names there. I remember we had One Direction, we've had Kanye West, and Baggy, we've had, they come here, Usain Bolt, Gordon Ramsay, we've had Serena Williams, we've had, some.
They had the GC after party.
Yeah, after party. Actually, recently we had Alcaraz, the tennis. Yeah, there after Oz Open, and it was great. So they've all been really great people. I actually, and Gordon Ramsay I thought it was brilliant. He's an icon, and I think even before how you're talking about everything's real when you go on your show, he's such a real bloke, and what a hard sort of bloke he comes across. Not what a gentleman he was.
It's good to hear stuff. Yeah, I've seen.
But yeah, there's been a lot of names. But yeah, everyone's different in their own way.
Is it true? Not like he's told the stories. You've seen some things. I know that, and that's part of it. Like that's part of living in that time between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. It's just that's when the world sort of ticks into another gear. Yeah. I wanted to ask, because we talked earlier about your time off temptation. Of course, you came to the real world. There was no influences and whatnot.
Yep.
your beautiful wife Rosalia, she now is part of that world. What are you going to learn? What have you passed on to her about, I guess, your experiences of that time, and what have you seen in how that world works? Because it's a dynamic, fascinating place where she, works for brands, and she represents some of the things you do. So, and collectively, as a couple, you're very dynamic as well. What do you sort of take away from it?
Look, I think what have I told her? You say, what have I taken?
Well, both. Not you both, because you kind of like give and take on it.
I think the best way to learn with anything is being side by side with someone. If you spend a lot of time with someone, you just subconsciously you're absorbing. So if you've got like a good father figure, you're going to sit there and you're going to absorb. I absorbed a lot from my parents growing up, seeing my mum and dad interacting with people, and then I guess for her, we've been together. She was 19 when we got together. I was 27, and I had the old nightclub. So she saw how I was, continually surrounded by people, and all sorts of people, from bus boys to high profile celebrities to ball busters to,
but also a lot of women. And that's something, as I, we've known. That's chatted. Yeah, I think you know it when you, right at the start when you said you do it together.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Charlotte. I've been together for you've been a long time, that's right, haven't you? Well, Charlotte, I remember, because you had Gerard Sisson, and he wrote Charlotte in. Yeah. And I was like, Charlotte, what are you doing? She goes, I'm gonna go have promoted at Ian. And I was like, all right, sweet, whatever. And then I was like, I haven't since great drinks. Yeah. And it's been 17, 18. And it's Charlotte and I started. So that's awesome, dear Charlotte. Awesome. But, like real estate, you meet a lot of people, you're always out about, and you're surrounded by women. Can't need it. It's hard. And unless they're in there with you, I think it can create like a bit of a friction. So I've had a very similar.
You would. Yeah.
Understand that, you real would. I have to involve, and I have always involved Charlotte in all of it. Awesome. So there isn't those sort of insecurities there. All those insecurities are normal.
Yeah, that's
like you just get them, of course. But if you do it together as much as possible,
you're a team.
You don't. Yeah, you're a team, and you don't always have to explain what's happened. That's the winters. They get to see what that's.
Absolutely, Cap. In fact, that is so spot on. Couldn't be said any better. And when she was 19. With me all that time as well. She learned how to be dealing with certain people as well, and saw how I dealt with people and met different people and ended up becoming clients of hers. And now she's become so successful with all of her work across social media and ambassador roles and everything. Now I learn a lot from her as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship where she learns from me, I learn from her. We both bounce ideas off each other all the time.
That's nice cross-pollination. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you guys, so you're a great relationship. Oh yeah, absolutely. And you guys ambassadors this year for Caulfield Cup in Melbourne here. So tell us about it, because that's about taking Bar Bambi outside.
Yes, it can do. So they're a great bunch of people. So like ripping bunch of people, and
it was a great photo shoot too.
Yeah, it was a big straight, and we did some work for them. Rose and I did something on a personal level with them going back a few years ago, and they asked us to do a Bar Bambi pop up back then, but in terms of our business structure, and we just didn't have the right team around us to facilitate it. So, 3 years down the track, we've got your team and everything, and we started talking again. And
so your own marquee.
Yeah, so there's a Bar Bambi VIP marquee there, and it's sold out in a week, which is great. So,
the lawyers wait.
Always.
Don't worry about it.
Straight in, boy.
You know what? Honestly, outside of Melbourne, everyone knows the Melbourne Cup, Flemington, but Caulfield's something different because it feels suburban, but it's still big.
And still there is Albert.
Still be dressed up.
It always more accessible. More accessible. You can breathe.
Yeah.
You see, you have better conversations because it's less intense.
Yeah.
I'm real.
Plus, you actually, unlike Flemington, you probably watch more because you're right there on the track. If you're the birdcage at Flemington, sure, maybe, but realistically, you can go to Flemington and not see a horse.
Yeah.
Caulfield, you're kind of all there.
Yeah, you're right there, so it's one track.
It's a good one for you guys to be involved. It looks like a lot of fun. And you're about the big trick. So you have to think about how do we make sure we maintain the flavour of what we do in the city, because you've got to be true with that.
Yeah, we do. And look, there'll be a lot of learnings from this. From this time around, it will be around next year.
And is this also like the prelude into possibly something bigger, birdcage in years to come?
Absolutely. Look, you start something once, and then off the back of that, I've received calls and emails from other different big events that are held here in Melbourne. And, why don't we do that? Yeah, why don't we do that here? So I always believe in you do something and who knows where it can lead.
Well, that's the thing, because, such a huge business is obviously, restaurants and high clubs.
Yep.
But you've never done events.
I have. Sorry to be inspired. Well, no, I've actually had. You are correct in that we haven't done events under our Bar Bambi brand. So you are no so apologies. I've had an events business for about 10 years. So you need to that falls under a different banner. So apologies. Yeah, we haven't done it.
Because what Bar Bambi will do is, again, give you this platform for more people to want that experience. Because Bar Bambi is an experience.
Yes, fine.
Whereas your events thing, which I didn't even know about, that's obviously off to the side. Yeah, that's a separate thing. It ticks away.
Spot on. You spot on. So it does. So it opens stuff up. But you just see you are there.
Before we let you go, you talked earlier, you like this evolve or die. So we've got on Aquabar, lots of Onyx. We've got Eve, big, Miss Big said, that's Wayne. It's all I call when I say my 21st. This man's and my 21st a bit.
I had my 18th.
18th.
Oh my god. So
Probably about the same time.
And so I first hashed Charlotte
At
boutique. What is our fun? These fucking little white shorts. I'll never forget these white shorts.
I should say, again, for those who don't know, boutique, iconic nightlife in New York. When Friday night being particular, Flash Fridays, but it has a 20
Cushionist boutique was unbelievable.
Cushion is not. But so we've gone. Let's say Aquabar, boutique, Eve, Bar Bambi. What's next? You got something you like? I would always love to do X.
I'd like to do a pub. Yeah, I'd like to do a pub. Yeah.
I feel this suits you. You get a bit older, be that public.
Yeah. Well, mate, you understand it so well. Well, you hit the nail on the head. Everything you said. You are, because effectively what you are now, call it Bar Bambi or League or any of this, is you are a publican there. Isn't it here? So the next evolution really is that pub, and I think it's a good model. Pubs have always been a very easy to trade.
You're just getting your hours further down.
You want to be in 2 till 5 in the afternoon.
And you can operate, day and night.
In Vermont, where's the? I was going to ask that question. Here's the word hip hop, and it has to be obviously a big Victorian.
Because what AVC have done, they've done well. Very well picking up the Ericas and the Ducks. They've also got that one in Melbourne, which is opening soon. Ferry and Watertree. So is there a location, or do you look at one and go, they do it very well?
I think there's a lot of mutual. I think that Headwood your best though, really, with Palm Spaces, Marybelle Brie and Sydney. I think offering, what Justin Adams has done is, and some remember what he's a genius. Yeah, he's a genius to the He's done extraordinary things with that group. So I think, they're the people to look at in terms of
Does the benchmark to the pub for you, quality food, a nice environment, is it adding on something? Is it because he's got ones with pools, or what's the thing you think?
I don't think anyone in Melbourne's had a revolutionary pub yet. No, not yet.
No, right.
Well, the
It will be you.
Government stage is interesting. Yeah, it's a sort of big day.
Oh, that was Garden. We unstaked an exceptional show.
But I think roll the spot for a pub.
Yeah, sure, but a venue like that with that many people working in the city,
It's a money-making machine there, and they've done very, very well. And the original founders, they sold to ABC, and ABC, a great bunch of people. They've done well in continuing on with their brand, and they're still busy, and it's sustained. And as you said, because you've got one or Collins out the back, they
have that feeder.
They've got a good feeder, that midweek feeder, which is a great bonus because you're making majority of your money on those weekend trade, but if you're just picking up those nice pockets of money throughout the week as well.
And see, I think that's the thing. It's like you get the nostalgia of the suburban pub, but the suburban pub may not tick the box that you tick.
Yeah, where's your own brand on?
You've always had your own brand, but also you've had that ability to have a lot of people in there. Yeah, if you go to suburban with your pub, that may not be in line with what your previous two big businesses have been.
Spa. Like guys, that's what I was talking about.
You're in the wrong industry. You are in the right industry. Yeah, in the right industry.
I was stuck in business, which is why I love this podcast, because, you know, we get people in that are from, you know, I mean, we've had no real estate, or hardly, have we had a real estate job? Or mine has been, but I mean, from, you know, say, I just love business. I just love people that give things a crap. Yeah, let's stick to their lane. People that they like to evolve and test things. So,
But had a Yumi element to what he's doing as well in terms of finding. Except the funny is you said all the places you found are terrible.
I missed that one.
No, I'm saying there's a property element to what you've done.
From the avalanche, terrible. This is the only time we've actually had a great location. And that was a big thing for us in between selling Eve and setting up again. I said, you know what? I'm never again going to the middle of nowhere. I'm not doing it. I actually wanted to have their location so you can have some passing trade or some different feeder venues where, hey, do you know what? I've just had dinner up the street at Chin Chin. Hey, Nick, what are you doing? Can we come? Cool. I've just had dinner at Supernormal. I've just had dinner at Gimlet or Americano or Festusa. So many fantastic spots all in the, you know, in that radius. They're great feeder.
well, you know what people would be doing? They'd also go to Bar Bambi for a pre-drink and then go, fuck, I don't want to go to I don't want to go to
It happens. And you were tasted, it happens as well. So, look, we've been lucky so far, so we'll
Good guy.
keep playing.
Mate, you're own luck.
Yeah, mate, you do. No, Rick, it's so true.
We could continue talking for a long time. When the microphone is off, we might ask some more questions about the cage with the doors. The time this strap. This is like, you see that guy who's come out. I can't remember his name. Who's done some videos about what he saw in his days. Yeah, my God, yeah, it's got this some stories. Got all best areas. Yeah, that's it. So I'm sure it is. English, mate. It's great to have you on. Sort of great stories, and we'll be looking out for the pub. In a few years' time, you'll see Marty and us sitting at the bar. I guess this is number you. Thank you for coming on with the Fox, mate. Good to see you, boys. You're running, mate. Sounds something. Good to see you, right? Good to see you.